Hello everyone! Ever since the Unlucky Tug started theorizing about the maps and lore of the TV series almost 5 years ago, I've been obsessed with it. As you know, he's popularized the theory that the model series and the CGI series are two different canons, with different maps and timelines. Last year, I made a video explaining the map of the entire series in a single canon, a more hypothetically accurate version of the Sam Wilkinson map. Though I'm satisfied that I managed to piece it together, recently the separate canons theory has made a lot more sense to me, and I created 2 new maps for each era, along with lore to explain it. Additionally, more recent versions of Wilkinson's maps with his changes have been recently uncovered. Some of these headcanons are pretty bold, so feel free to take what I say with a grain of salt. I'll be going through each detail in no particular order and explaining the changes I've made from Tug's maps in no particular order. So without further ado, let's start. The Loop Line. The loop that connects Elsbridge to the Mainline exists on both David Mitton and Sam Wilkinson's maps, so naturally it exists in both canons. Let's start with the model series. First up is Tidmouth Bay. As seen in this shot from Season 6, it is serviced by the Mainline, the Little Western, and Thomas's branch line. Edward the Very Useful Engine also states that it is on the Loop Line. Not only does its name clearly place it at the mouth of the River Tid, but its historical location of Castle Tid and its fairgrounds serve as a venue for special events, as seen in several episodes. Scaredy Engines also cements it between Callan and Tidmouth. The Tower Windmill seen in Seasons 5 and 6 is located on the loop between Tidmouth and Elsbridge, as both Thomas's branch and mainline services are seen passing it. Nearby west of it is the crossing station ripped up in By George, as it's stated in the episode to be on the same line. My headcanon is that the tracks that were ripped up is an old section of Toby's line, seeing as it's near Tidmouth Junction. The most recent Wilkinson map calls it Ellsdale and places it east of Elsbridge. However, I choose to believe it's Callendale, seeing as that's where it lines up on the Railway Series map. In the CGI series, this is also where I've placed the Fenland, the equivalent of the Floodlands on the Model Series map. In Hero of the Rails, Thomas and Spencer turn north at the junction for the loop line, the bridge collapses under Spencer, and Thomas continues on through the rear of Knapford. I've placed the tunnel bridge where James crashes in Philip to the Rescue, where the main line crosses Thomas's branch near Elsbridge. Philip saves James from falling, coming back down the line to Knapford from Farquhar Quarry. Additionally, James passes under it while working on Thomas's branch line and journey beyond Sodor before arriving at Maithwaite. Elsbridge never appears in the CGI series, but I've chosen to let it remain as a junction station, as seen on both official maps. Maithwaite seems to have taken its place as the middle station on Thomas's line, but it still serves as the loop line's middle station. I have the Sodor suspension bridge in the same spot on both model and CGI series maps, which is between Knapford and Crosby, the reason being that it doesn't cross a river, and it's the only spot on the main line where the cliffs overlook the sea. Additionally, its collapse and calling all engines only suspends services between Knapford and Crosby, so the engines can still reach the big stations from the other side of the loop. Cronk, Abbey and Kildane. In the model series, Cronk is seen as a small station on the Peel-Godred branch line, while Abbey is a mainline station. As Tug did in later versions of his map, I've swapped them, with Neville's Bridge serving as the line's west junction. In CGI, Cronk is a mainline station, as stated by Gordon, but I have a fun headcanon for Abbey. A crucial plot point in Hero of the Rails is that Boxford Halt is located near Hero's hideout, and the Island of Sodor book states Abbey to be a private station. My headcanon is that the Duke and Duchess purchased Abbey to build their summer house, therefore renaming it. Kildane appears in neither eras, which is most likely because Thomas is a kids' show, and it has satanic lore. But I've chosen to include every station seen on the Railway Series map in the TV series for consistency. Though, if I had to pick a set from the model series to depict it, I'd choose this unnamed station seen very briefly in a couple of shots from the later hit seasons. The only reason being that Thomas passes it en route to Balladroyle Wharf. Ballyhoo. Like Kildane, Ballyhoo is never mentioned at any point in the show, though it is vaguely shown in one shot in Day of the Diesels. I've included it as a mainline station because the Island of Sodor book states that the mainline trains that aren't the express stop there anyway. Sodor and Mainland Railway. The S&M Railway existed in both canons and consisted of the Norrumby branch, the Great Waterton line, and the Kirk Ronan branch, but only in CGI though, since it was stated to be new in the model series. As you can see, I've attempted to make sense of the wacky route from Gordon Takes a Shortcut. It still doesn't make a lot of sense, as most hit episodes don't, but I will say that it does a good job of showing more of the Great Waterton branch. Additionally, I placed the Maritime Museum on the loop north of Norrumby, solely because it stated that Thomas had never been that way before in the episode. One of my headcanons for the model series is that the NWR mainline services terminate at Crovan's Gate. In Bowled Out, Duck and Stepney bring the express halfway, and Gordon is facing the other direction to finish the round trip. This also explains why Vickerstown is the faraway part of the island where only the diesels go. I've chosen to include Ballad Whale Wharf's existence in the CGI series because the existence of Stanley and Great Waterton confirms that the Great Discovery is canon. In both canons, the Waterton-Ballad Whale line is the S&M's tramway branch. Additionally, I put the Old Farm branch line where Gordon takes his tumble just outside of Kelsthorpe, seeing as the 3 tracks shift to 2 just before Thorkel's castle. Edwards branch, Rescue Center branch, Peel Godred line. I'll start with CGI for this one. For both canons, I've chosen to expand the lore of the Wellsworth and Sudbury Railway. My boldest one, Misty Island. As you can see, I've made Misty Island the Killaban/Cabalnu region of Sodor separated by the rivers. Overhead CGI shots of the island show these rivers, and being on the other side of Brendam Bay explains why it can be seen from the docks. So, hear me out. Misty Island was the Wellsworth and Sudbury's goods line, and the harbor where the rescue center was built used to be the old Sudbury Wharf. The logging locos were purchased from America in the late 1800s to transport logs through the tunnel to the wharf. Whiff is a former Wellsworth and Sudbury engine, which explains why he, of all characters, knows about Misty Island. I cannot believe I managed to make logical sense of Misty Island. Just like the model series, I've included the Sodor Ironworks at the end of the Peel Godred line. The smelter's yard is confirmed to exist in this canon, as Hero fears being sent there in Hero of the Rails, and he and Henry collect steel off-screen in Henry's Hero, traveling down a branch line east of Gordon's Hill. Also, it's literally printed on the side of Aryan Birds, so yeah. I've also attempted to explain the weird rail bridge above Wellsworth. That being that it leads to the old yard in which Dexter was found. There's also a junction at Sudbury that connects the Rescue Center branch, providing the emergency vehicles a closer link to Brendam, and explains why Hero goes over Gordon's Hill coming from Brendam and no more Mr. Nice engine. Now, for the much more interesting part, the model series. As seen in Haunted Henry, there is an old branch of Edward's line that goes north from Wellsworth to Peel Godred, which explains why Edward is the one to warn Henry about it. As also seen in Stepney Gets Lost, the line is restored and opened as a new branch line. Stepney gets diverted north at the junction away from the main line and ends up at the smelters. Also on this line is the country station where Thomas travels in Don't Tell Thomas, and the muddy road near Wellsworth where Edward rescues the brass band. I've added a few sets to the east branch of Edward's line from Mitten's map, mostly from seasons 5 to 7. Most notably, the hill where James meets the tree, seeing as he's taking his train east from Brendam and reverses to the junction to go to Wellsworth instead. And finally, I've placed the cement works near the clay pits in Brendam, seeing as Salty is the one to take Fergus home. This additionally fits as making Fergus a Wellsworth and Sudbury engine. Thomas, Duck, and Toby's branch lines. Whew, this one's a lot. I'll start with the less complicated CGI route. Even though I want to believe he worked in East Anglia given the mainland's prominence in CGI, there's no way around it. Toby's old line was on Sodor in the CGI series. We literally see Arlesdale End in the nitrogen seasons, and Lower Arlesborough is mentioned in season 24. However, both the Mitten map and Arlesborough Harbour help explain it. Like in the model series, the Little Western used to be Toby's line. It ran from Tidmouth all the way up to Cowan Castle, with a junction at Arlesborough Harbour being the spur in which his shed was located. Cyril the Fogman appears in season 22, which I'll take as a soft confirmation of Misty Valley's existence. The track beyond Arlesdale End goes through the valley to Cowan Castle. We actually see this line in season 23's Rangers of the Rails, as Emily goes to the campgrounds near the castle. Not only did Toby's old line connect with the Mid-Sodor Railway at Arlesborough West, but so did Thomas's. My headcanon is that the Tidmouth, Knapford, and Elsbridge Railway included a line that branched west to Arlesborough. It was along this old line that Thomas tried taking his shortcut. It was reopened off-screen sometime after with the Harwick extension for Thomas to deliver passengers to the small railway, as seen in Season 20. Also along this line is the rickety old bridge, right at the junction near Lower Arlesborough. Thomas's branch line also includes the Ulfstead spur that connects the main line and the rescue center. The old mine below Ulfstead Castle was serviced by the Tidmouth, Knapford and Elsbridge Railway, and the mine exit with the waterfall where Thomas crashes in bubbling boilers, I know, is just east of Farquhar. I've also included Ulfstead Village because it seems wrong to include the castle without it, and it even appeared in concept art for Season 15. As seen in the Brenner seasons, the majority of the upper half of the Little Western is actually inland amongst forest and farmland. It still meets the coast at the stations, though. I imagine that the flooded tracks where Duck gets stuck would be in the same place as the flatlands between Haltraw and Arlesborough on Mitten's map. Now, for the much more complex model seasons. First off, I've placed Bluffs Cove on the headland spur between Tidmouth and Knapford on both maps. The CGI series shows it on Duck's line, but the model seasons imply it's on Thomas's, so I placed it on the coastal spur shared by both lines. Additionally, mainline engines like James and Henry are seen there in CGI, so its closer connection to the main line makes more sense. I've decided that the church station and fishing village are the model series equivalent of Arlesborough Harbour. Haltraw is the junction station where the line splits to the harbour. The harbour line was formally reopened in Something Fishy to be worked by Arthur. However, I've placed the fishing village near Bluffs Cove in CGI, also due to the mainline connection. Toby's line used to service Cowan Castle via Misty Valley, and Cyril was the line's original fogman. Additionally, Mitten's original draft of Toby's Discovery confirms that a new track was built to connect to Ulfstead Castle, confirming Tug's old theory about the new through line. Nearby the castle and mine is the transfer yard where Boulder crashed. I placed it at the tail end of Thomas's line since he and Percy are shown working there most often. I'll explain the narrow gauge connection more in a bit. I also included the Y junction that connects Arlesdale End to Farquhar Quarry, as seen unofficially in the good old days. I maintain my belief in the theory that the old manor station from Oliver's find is Arlesdale End. Taking the mail is usually Percy's job, so Oliver was traveling north up Thomas's branch, got diverted north at Hackenbeck, and discovered the station via the old quarry line. I've also placed Old Bailey Station south of Ulfstead and decided to make it the model series take on Kirkmashan, since there are no mountain engines. The two-road line crosses the single-road spur of Edwards Line. Also nearby is High Farm, which makes sense to include on Thomas's branch line. In Thomas and the Birthday Mail, he travels from Marin up into the hills. Additionally, Marin is referred to as a branch line station in Season 6. On the other side of Thomas's branch line is where I placed the coal mine and miner's halt. I firmly believe that this is the model series equivalent of Tory Wreck and the lead mine on Audrey's map, seeing as Mitten put the lead mine near Knapford and even Sam Wilkinson confirmed my suspicions in his later maps. The entirety of A Surprise for Percy takes place on a two-road branch of Thomas's line, along Bertie's bus route and near Sir Topham Hatt's office, which is why he joins the chase for the runaway trucks. This also places it in close proximity to the main line's coaling plant, which I've placed near Crosby. Speaking of the lead mines, I've placed the tunnel from Thomas and the Rumors along the mine spur, seeing as a sandy tunnel would make sense near the coast. Gordon was traveling to collect his train, presumably from the big yards, and Thomas is the one to rescue him. Narrow gauge railways. I'll start by knocking out the CGI series, which stays faithful to Audrey's map, along with the small railway, the Culdee Railway, and the Blue Mountain Quarry / Ulfstead extension. The model series is where this gets really interesting. Mitten portrayed the Skarloey Railway as a giant loop, with Bluebell Valley and the Mid-Sodor Railway running within it. Duke's old station is near Crovan's Gate, putting the village and Valesbridge along the wharf spur. Additionally, Bluebell Valley is a transfer station, and the reason why Rusty works with Stepney is to maintain the old Mid-Sodor tracks. A huge headcanon of mine is that the Skarloey Railway bought and refurbished the old Mid-Sodor tracks in their entirety after rediscovering Duke, and Season 7 shows the restoration. Beyond Skarloey Station is the Mid-Sodor spur that runs down Culdee Fell. This is the route that Boulder takes to reach the transfer yard in Ulfstead, and the viaduct we see at Chase Reneus over crosses the Peel Godred branch. In The Runaway Elephant, Duncan delivers the statue down this mountain line, loses control, and crashes at Elephant Park, aka Balamodi. Bertram's mine, the old coal mine Duncan discovered, and the old quarry worked on by the pack all used to be serviced by the Mid-Sodor. In Fearless Freddy, he remembers the old tracks traveling up and down the mountain road, cementing the theory that he was a Mid-Sodor engine. I've also decided that the mountain village is a far part of Great Waterton. The other half of the Skarloey Loop is a long goods line that runs through the countryside, which includes the spur to Vicarstown. Along this line are the various farms as well as Strawberry Grove, where Duncan travels in Faulty Whistles. In Rusty Saves the Day, the only part of the line they consider closing is the passenger line, seeing as the goods lines still connect to the quarries. And with Great Waterton within the Skarloey Loop, it makes sense that the narrow gauge engines would join the search for Thomas when he goes missing. And that's pretty much everything except for one major theory regarding the CGI series timeline. And that theory is that the CGI canon's present is at the tail end of Wilbert Awdry's books in the late 60s. Allow me to explain. The first and most damning piece of evidence is that they adapted small railway engines. It's not a dead ringer, but there's other evidence to support this. First of all, I think they take place before Lost Treasure because Thomas already knows them and the Thin Clergyman is already on Sodor. Second, the Little Western is referred to as a new branch line. This, of course, refers to the Harwick extension, but who's to say that this extension isn't what prompted its opening? Ryan and Daisy are seen servicing the other stations as well. Secondly, Oliver brags about his escape as if it were a recent thing in Toad's adventure, just as he did in the book. He's also nowhere to be seen in Duck and the Slip Coaches or the Small Railway episodes. Third, we don't actually see the Little Western until Season 18. When we see Duck in Season 17, he's doing odd jobs like fetching coal for the big engines or delivering Harold to the rescue center, implying that he could still be a station pilot at that point. One thing to take into consideration with this, though, and that's accepting that Emily was on Sodor before Oliver. But even the early drafts reveal that he wasn't originally in Emily's new coaches. They intended for it to be either Toby or Percy. And of course, like Tug theorized years ago, small railway engines happens before Duke's rediscovery in the books. This is only my theory, but a lot of the evidence adds up. So yeah, that's my rambling. In terms of the maps, I've crafted them to check out the most number of episodes possible. If you have any other theories or headcanons, feel free to share them in the comments below. Bye bye!